What if Legendary Trio Pokemon had a fourth member? Well, in this video, I go over just that, ranging from a Dark-type legendary beast that is based on Umbreon, to a new god who is responsible for the Big Bang in the Pokemon world, to even a space monkey who has the power to control gravity. Let's do this. Alright, let's start with the Legendary Bird Trio, and these Pokemon have 3 overlapping themes. The first theme is that each of the names end with a Spanish number, with Articuno having Uno for 1, Zapdos having Dos for 2, and Moltres having Tres for 3. The second theme is that, according to their Pokédex entries, each legendary bird represents a season, with Articuno representing winter, Zapdos representing summer, and Moltres representing spring. And then finally, the third theme is that, in the anime, Professor Oak states that Articuno and Moltres' combined powers of ice and fire is the source and cradle of the ocean, while Zapdos' electric energy creates the currents and the streams, which explains why they are heavily related to Lugia, who is the guardian of the ocean. So with these 3 themes in mind, if the Legendary Bird Trio gained a 4th member, I think it would be Tornadro, the grass flying type Pokemon. And as you can see, it follows the 3 themes just perfectly, because for one, its name is a combination of the words tornado and cuatro, which is the Spanish word for 4. For 2, it's based on the remaining season that is unused by the other 3 birds, which would be autumn, which you can see from its fall-like coloring, especially through its shiny. And then for 3, as for it being related to the ocean, its name having the word tornado could be the explanation of how it controls the ocean's currents, since currents are normally generated by wind. So it would be Articuno and Moltres creating the cradle of the ocean with their ice and fire powers, and Zapdos and Tornadro creating the currents in the streams with their electricity and wind powers. So essentially, you would have 2 duos in the quartet. Alright, moving on to his moveset, I think we'd have the moves Ancient Power, Leaf Tornado, Tailwind, and Roost, since legendary bird Pokemon are known to be ancient Pokemon, and that Tornadro is known for creating strong winds. For its abilities, it would have the generic Pressure ability that all the other birds have, but also the hidden ability Wind Rider, which boosts a Pokemon's attack stat if Tailwind is in effect, which is why I gave it the move Tailwind. And finally, for the lore of this Pokemon, its Pokédex entry would state this: a legendary bird Pokemon that blows leaves off a tree to start the season of autumn. It can be found in the Hidden Grotto in Viridian Forest. And yeah, that's basically it. It would be a legendary bird that is known for creating strong winds, which I think fits nicely for the fact that it represents autumn, a season where leaves fall off of trees. Next up, we have the legendary bees, and these 3 Pokemon have several themes. The first theme is that each beast represents an element of the brass tower, with Raikou representing the lightning bolt that struck the tower, Entei representing the fire that burnt down the tower, and Suicune representing the rain that calmed the tower. The second theme is that they are all based on jungle cats, with Raikou being based on a tiger, Entei being based on a lion, and Suicune being based on a cheetah. The third theme is that their names all have meanings in Chinese, with the Rai and Raikou meaning thunder, and the Ku meaning lord, the N and Entei meaning flame, and the Tei meaning emperor, and the Sui and Suicune meaning water, and Kun meaning monarch. The fourth theme is that each beast has an ascending number of points on their faceplates, with Raikou having 4, which are there, and there, Entei having 5, which are there, and there, and Suicune having 6, which is based on the points of his crystal. And finally, of course, we have the theory that each beast was originally an Eevee evolution, since the Brass Tower is located in Necrotique City, the same city where the Kimono Girls with their Eevee evolutions resided. And for the fact that their original hidden abilities correspond to their theorized Eevee evolutions, with both Raikou and Jolteon having the ability Volt Absorb, Entei and Flareon having the ability Flash Fire, and Suicune and Vaporeon having the ability Water Absorb. Okay, so with all of that in mind, if the legendary bees gain a 4th member, I think it would be Yazoo, the pure dark type Pokemon. And here's how it follows all of those themes. To start things off, its dark typing represents the Dark Knight when the 3 Pokemon perished. It is based on a Black Panther, which is a large cat commonly found in the jungle. Its name is literally the word bite in Chinese, which is what dark type Pokemon are known for. It has 7 points on its faceplate, which are here, 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 and here. And I think the artist Malmez did this very cleverly. And lastly, if the Eevee evolution theory holds up, it would have been an Umbreon before it was revived, which is represented by the glowing stripes on his body and the overall coloring. So basically, you have a Dark-type Black Panther Beast legendary that is based on Umbreon, which I think is pretty epic. Alright, moving on to his moveset, I think we'd have the moves Extreme Speed, Crunch, Dark Pulse, and Roar, and I think all those are pretty self-explanatory. For its abilities, it would have the plain Pressure ability as a standard one, but also have the Inner Focus hidden ability, which honestly fits perfect for this Pokemon, because after Generation 7, all of the bees have their hidden abilities changed to Inner Focus. And do you know which Pokemon has Inner Focus naturally? Well, it's Umbreon, the Pokemon that Yazoo is based on. And lastly, for the lore of this Pokemon, its Pokédex entry would state this: it creates a black fog to vanish into darkness. It is capable of hiding even in the brightest sunlight. It can be found roaming in the Johto region. And yeah, there you go, that seems pretty legendary to me, but I wonder what an Espeon legendary beast would look like, maybe for another video. Next up, we have the Weather Trio, and this trio really only has one overarching theme, and that theme is that the battle between Groudon and Kyogre is based on the Jewish legend of Behemoth and Leviathan, where at the end of time, they are destined to battle. And with this theme, Groudon is based on Behemoth of this battle, a colossal land creature who embodies primal strength and represents the untamed forces of the land, while Kyogre is based on Leviathan, a colossal sea creature who embodies the untamed forces of the sea, representing the vastness and the unpredictability of the oceans. And as for Rayquaza in this mix, it is based on Ziz, a massive bird whose wingspan can block out the sun, who is said to intervene in the battle to maintain balance, representing the heavens and the skies. So, with this theme in mind, if the Weather Trio gained a fourth member, I think it would be Braxar, the Dark Dragon-type Pokemon. And I'm not gonna lie, Braxar was the hardest Pokemon to come up with for this video, because the myth that Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza are based on only consists of 3 creatures, Behemoth, Leviathan, and Ziz. So we really had to dig deep for another creature that Braxar could be based on. And the best one that we could find was Rahab, who in Hebrew mythology is a giant sea creature that embodies chaos, representing the untamed forces of nature. And we thought it would be interesting if Braxar, the embodiment of chaos and all, could be the one responsible for instigating the battle between Groudon and Kyogre, and left it to Rayquaza to clean up. So you could say that Braxar is the anti-Rayquaza. Instead of maintaining balance, it likes to disrupt it. Alright, moving on to his moveset, I think we'd have the moves Twister, Nasty Plot, and Muddy Water, while also having the custom signature move Tumultuous Wrath, which would essentially act as the same as Galarian Moltres' signature move Fiery Wrath, but will hit 2 targets, since the lore behind Braxar is that it instigated 2 colossal Pokemon. And as for its ability, it would have the Shadow Sky ability, which is only seen in Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, where the user summons darkness that hurts all Pokemon but Shadow Pokemon for 5 turns, which I think really plays into his chaotic nature. And lastly, for the lore of this Pokemon, its Pokédex entry would state this. This super ancient Pokemon is believed to be the cause of the great battle between Groudon and Kyogre. It thrives in chaotic environments. If you dare to hunt this Pokemon, it can be found in the Hoenn Ring of Fire, a large body of water where high seismic and volcanic activity are present, which is actually based on a real-life location called the Ring of Fire that's in the Pacific Ocean. And yeah, there you go, Braxar, the 4th weather legendary Pokemon, who likes to instigate and cause chaos. Next up, we have the Creation Trio, and these Pokemon have 4 overlapping themes. The first theme is that each Pokemon represents a different state of matter, with Dialga representing the solid state by being a steel type, Palkia representing the liquid state by being a water type, and Giratina representing the gas state by being a ghost type. The second theme is that they all represent the fundamentals of cosmology, with Dialga representing time, Palkia representing space, and Giratina representing antimatter. The third theme is that they each associate with a gemstone, with Dialga pairing with a diamond, Palkia pairing with a pearl, and Giratina pairing with an opal. And lastly, for the fourth theme, they're all based on dinosaurs, with Dialga being based on a Camarasaurus or a Brachytracheolopin, Palkia being based on a Plateosaurus, and Giratina being based on a Sauropod. So with all of those themes in mind, if the Creation Trio gained a 4th member, I think it would be Opagia, the Fire Dragon type Pokemon. And man, I absolutely love this design because it's just so believable, especially with how it fits with all of the Creation Trio's themes. Because for one, it's based on the 4th state of matter, Plasma, completing the quadrifecta of all known states of matter, solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. For 2, it continues the fundamentals of cosmology theme by being able to manipulate energy. And I would say that this Pokemon is the source of all energy in the Pokemon universe. For 3, it associates with the Fire Opal Gemstone, which is slightly different than Giratina's Opal Gemstone. And we picked this gemstone because no other gemstone would make much sense for a Fire-type Pokemon that can manipulate energy. And lastly, for the 4th theme, it is based on the Triceratops dinosaur. And I love that it's a quadrupedal because just so many Pokemon nowadays are being turned into a bipedal furry Pokemon. And it just looks like a beast that you don't want to mess with. Alright, moving on to his moveset, I think we have the moves Fire Blast, Aura Sphere, Thunder, and the custom signature move Kinetic Cataclysm, which would essentially be a small Big Bang solely focused on the target, possibly leaving the user confused or something. For its ability, it would simply have the Pressure and Telepathy abilities, since that's what the rest of the Creation Trio has. And as for the lore of this Pokemon, its Pokédex entry would state this. A Pokemon spoken of in legend. It is thought that all of the universe's energy was created in an epic blast when this Pokemon was born. Its location is unknown, but has been spotted near Spear Pillar. And yeah, that's basically it. Essentially, after Arceus created Dialga, Palkia, Giratina, and Opagia kicked things off by initiating the Big Bang that created all the energy in the Pokemon universe. And given that it's a Fire-type Pokemon native to the Sinnoh region is a good thing, because Sinnoh could use a lot more Fire-type Pokemon. Next, we have the Lake Guardians, and these 3 Pokemon have several themes as well. The first theme is their in-game lore, where Arceus created the Lake Guardians to give Pokemon and humans knowledge, emotion, and willpower, represented by Uxie, Mesprit, and Azelf respectively. The second theme is that each of their names has a pronoun, with Uxie having the letter U for the pronoun you, Mesprit having me for the pronoun me, and Azelf having the letters AZ, which sounds like us, for the pronoun us. Along with that, each of the names end with a word that means fairy, with Uxie being a combination of pixie, Mesprit being a combination of sprite, and Azelf being a combination of elf. And lastly, for the fourth theme, the trio are all based on subtractive colors, which are colors that can mix and produce a large range of other colors, like you see in printers, with Uxie being yellow, Mesprit being magenta, and Azelf being cyan. So with all of these themes in mind, if the Lake Guardians gain a fourth member, I think it would be Omniip, the pure Psychic-type Pokemon, and I think this Pokemon fits in just perfectly. Because for one, Omniip represents imagination, because without imagination, innovative ideas would not exist in the Pokemon world. And I feel like it takes some imagination to understand knowledge, emotion, and willpower, just like I would take some knowledge, emotion, and willpower to understand imagination. For two, Omniip's name is a combination of the words Omni and Imp, where Omni means the pronoun all, and Imp being a word that means fairy. And lastly, for his coloring, it is a dark gray because black is the fourth and last subtractive color. And if you didn't know, when you mix all the subtractive colors together, it creates black. So Omniip's name having Omni, which means all, makes even more sense. Alright, moving on to his moveset, I think we have the moves Mystical Power, Final Gambit, Swift, and Calm Mind, with Mystical Power being the Lake Guardian's signature move starting in Legends Arceus, and Final Gambit because, for some reason, all the Lake Guardians learn self-KOing moves at level 77, so it needed a way to self-destruct in a stylish way. For its ability, it would simply have the Levitate ability, no hidden ability needed. And for its lore, its Pokédex history will probably state this: known as a being of imagination, it inspired humans to become creative and innovative in their endeavors. It can be found resting in its private cave in Sindoff Spring, which I think is perfect because Sindoff Spring has Turnback Cave, which houses a portal to the Distortion World. So maybe Omniip can be the guardian of the Distortion World. Alright, moving on to the Tide Trio, these Pokemon are based on a single overarching theme. And that theme is that all three of these dragons are based on the lore of alchemy. And let me break it down. Alchemy as a whole is often represented by three ingredients: sulfur, mercury, and salt. And these three ingredients each have a philosophical meaning. Starting with sulfur, or in this context, sulfic sulfur, it represents the soul, fire, and the transformative aspect of the alchemical process, which in this case is what Reshiram is based on. For sulfic mercury, it represents fluidity, change, and the transformative agent in the alchemical journey, which is what Zekrom is based on. And for sulfic salt, it represents stability, manifestation, and the material realm, emphasizing balance and harmony, which is what Kyurem is based on, since it's the one who fuses Reshiram and Zekrom together. And with all of these philosophical ingredients mixed together, it creates alchemy, turning basic metal into gold, which is represented by the ultimate dragon that Reshiram, Zekrom, and Kyurem become when they're all fused together. So with this theme in mind, there really isn't room for a fourth member, because there isn't a fourth ingredient you're performing alchemy with. So we had to think outside the box and rely more on Pokemon lore to create this quadrifecta, which in turn led to Alkarim, the Dragon Ghost type Pokemon, who is a personification of the Dragon Force in the Pokemon world. And if you didn't know, the Dragon Force is a powerful and invisible energy that surges throughout the Pokemon world, that is said to create an environment where humans and Pokemon alike can live in harmony, which sounds a lot like sulfic salt in alchemy. So maybe with Reshiram and Zekrom being the two halves of the original dragon, and Kyurem being the glue that holds the body together, maybe Alkarim could be the source of all the dragon power, being the soul of the original dragon, hence why it's a ghost type Pokemon. And as for its appearance, as you can see, it shares the same color as the Dragon Force seen in the anime, and it has golden rings that hold its body together to symbolize the alchemy that the Tao Trio are based on. And maybe its shiny colors could be neon purple to symbolize the Dragon Force being corrupted by a corrupted soul. So I guess if you run into a shiny Alkarim, then you're just an evil person. Alright, let's talk about his moveset, and I think we have the moves Dragon Pulse, Imprison, Ominous Wind, and the custom signature move Draconic Outburst, where the user gives the Dragon type to all surrounding Pokemon and hits them for super effective damage. Also, I chose the move Dragon Pulse because in Japanese, the Dragon Force is known as the Dragon Pulse, so it just fits in perfectly. For its ability, I think we'd have, of course, the custom ability Dragon Force, where all Dragon type moves are powered up, just like Regidrago's Dragon Maw ability. And for the lore of this Pokemon, I've already covered most of it, but here's what its Pokédex history would state. It is thought that Alkarim is the origin of the Dragon type itself, and that all Dragon Pokemon receive their energy from this Pokemon. There are rumors that it can be found in the Dragon Spiral Tower. And yeah, overall, I absolutely love this design, and this is probably my favorite concept out of all the Pokemon in this video. So I hope you guys like it too. Next up, we have the Aura Trio, and these Pokemon have one overarching theme as well, and that theme is that they're all based on the Tree of Life Yggdrasil, which in Norse mythology is a large tree that connects the 9 realms of existence. So jumping right into it, starting with Xerneas, it is based on the Tree of Life itself, since it has antlers that look like branches of a tree, and it becomes a tree when it exerts too much life energy. Along with that, Xerneas is also based on the stags that sit on top of Asgard, who all represent the abundance of life and the renewal of the cosmos. For Yveltal, it is based on Hrísvalgr, a giant eagle that sits on the top of the Tree of Life who creates the wind, which is why Yveltal becomes an egg after absorbing all the life force around it, symbolizing the eagle and the forces of nature. And for Zygarde, it is based on Nidhogg, a serpent-like dragon that gnaws on the roots of Yggdrasil, representing chaos and destruction. And as for the 3 creatures that the Aura Trio are based on, they also represent the 3 axes of X, Y, and Z. Since the stags can be found in Asgard, Hrísvalgr can be found in Midgard, and Nidhogg can be found in Niflheim, which explains why each of the Aura Trio's bodies are shaped as the axis they represent, with Xerneas' antlers representing the X, Yveltal's tail and wings representing the Y, and Zygarde's snake-like body representing the Z. So with all of this in mind, if the Aura Trio gained a 4th member, I think it would be Whiskerous, the normal Psychic-type Pokemon, which I think fits in with the Aura Trio just perfectly, because Whiskerous is based on Ratatoskr, a mythological squirrel that runs up and down the trunk of Yggdrasil, carrying messages and spreading rumors between the eagle on the top and the dragon on the bottom. So one can say that Whiskerous is kind of a mischief and loves to spread gossip. And as you can see by its name and design, it represents the W axis, which in this case would be the 4th dimension, space and time. So basically, I imagine Whiskerous slipping into the 4th dimension so that it can teleport around the whole Pokemon world to deliver its messages and spreading its gossip. Alright, moving on to his moveset, I think we'd have the moves Hyper Voice, Psychic Fangs, Parting Shot, and his custom signature move, Gossip Order, where the user reveals all opposing Pokemon moves, abilities, items, and disguises, while raising its evasiveness, which I think would be pretty dang awesome. And man, the move Parting Shot was made for this Pokemon because the user essentially shouts an offensive word and then switches out, which is something I can imagine Whiskerous doing. For its ability, we gave it the custom ability Chaotic Aura, which removes all type immunities, which I think just adds to the chaotic flavor of this Pokemon. And lastly for its lore, its Pokédex history would state something like this. Legends say that this Pokemon is the one responsible for ecosystems falling into disarray. It can be found roaming in the Kalos region. And yeah, that's basically it. What I love most about this Pokemon is that his body is literally a W. The artist did so well with that. Next, we have the Light Trio, and these 3 Pokemon have one very simple theme, and that theme is that they're all based on daytime, with Solgaleo being based on the sun and daylight, Lunala being based on the moon and nighttime, and Necrozma being based on solar and lunar eclipses, with the hint of black holes. So, with this one very simple theme in mind, if the Light Trio gained a 4th member, I think it would be Grafsaki, the Psychic Rock-type Pokemon. And this Space Monkey fits in perfectly because it is based on gravity. Because without gravity, there wouldn't be a day or nighttime cycle, since the rotation of the Earth is all dependent on the sun's gravity. And along with that, it is also based on the monkey sent to outer space during the early development of space exploration, with maybe a hint of his psychic powers based on Cosmo from Marvel, which is one of my favorite characters by the way. Alright, moving on to his moveset, I think we'd have the moves Body Press, Ancient Power, Cosmic Power, and the custom signature move Gravitational Crush, which would essentially crush a target with gravity as strong as a collapsing star, dealing more damage the greater the target weighs and measures. For its ability, I think we'd have the custom ability Graviton Surge, which would cause all levitating of fly-type Pokemon to be grounded and redirect all attacks towards Grafsaki, who I think would be an extremely bulky Pokemon. So to give an example, in a 2-on-2 battle, you can swap in a Grafsaki holding a Focus Sash to save your other Pokemon, since all incoming attacks would be redirected towards it. And then lastly for the lore of this Pokemon, I think its Pokédex history would state this. It is thought that the entire galaxy revolves around this Pokemon. It can control gravity at will. Its location is unknown, but probably can be found in the center of the Milky Way. So maybe in the Pokemon world, every galaxy has a Grafsaki in the middle of it, while Solgaleo and Lunala are roaming suns and stars, and Necrozma just doing Necrozma things. But yeah, there you go, the Space Monkey of the Light Quartet. And lastly, we have the Loyal 3 Trio, and these Pokemon are all based on a single in-game theme. And that theme is that they were all at once pathetically weak Pokemon, who gain legendary powers by wrapping themselves with toxic chains. And depending on where the Pokemon wrap the toxic chain leads to his newfound power, with Okidogi getting massive physical strength by wrapping the chain around his neck, Munkidori getting massive psychic powers by wrapping the chain around his head, and Fezity Pity getting unfathomable beauty by wrapping the chain around his torso, or its boobas. Oh, and also their names are all based on phrases, with Okidogi being based on Okidoki, Munkidori being based on Hunky Dory, and Fezity Pity being based on Serendipity, which basically means a chain of events turning into someone's favor. So with these two themes in mind, if the Loyal 3 became the Loyal 4, I think the fourth member would be Cappy-Go-Lucky, the Poison Steel type Pokemon. And as you can see, this Pokemon is based on a cowardice capybara who decided to wrap itself with a toxic chain. Because as the saying goes, courage and bravery comes from the gut. So by wrapping the toxic chain around his stomach, this cowardice capybara, or possibly a Bibarel, became a courageous Cappy-Go-Lucky and gained legendary Poison Steel type powers. And as for its name, it is based on the phrase happy-go-lucky, which basically means being cheerfully unconcerned about the future, which takes a pretty courageous person to have that mindset. Alright, moving on to his moveset, I think we'd have the moves Iron Head, Cross Poison, Double Edge, and Hone Claws, which are all moves that take a courageous Pokemon to do, especially with the move Double Edge, given that it has recoil damage. For its ability, it would simply have the Toxic Chain ability like the rest of the Loyal 3, or I guess in this case, the Loyal 4. And lastly, for the lore of this Pokemon, its Pokédex history would state this. Its fur became hardened immensely by the Toxic Chain's poisons, giving it incredible resilience and courage. It can be found in Area 0. And there you go, the Capybara Pokemon. I hope you guys enjoyed it. By the way guys, I'm going to be a card in an official trading card game called Nostalgics. So if you want to buy it, use the link down below in the description because it's going to be here for a limited time only with this expansion. Go get it now. And be sure to watch my video where I do the exact same thing but with a starter Pokemon. What if there was a fourth starter Pokemon in Pokemon? Watch it now.